I'm El Donzo.
I am Deez.
And we were talking in the last segment about election fooly monkey shines going on, weren't we, Deez?
Yes, sir.
Now, we talked about Carrie Lake, too, and that's an ongoing battle. And a lot of people say Carrie Lake's nuts. Okay, she lost to Katie Hobbs, who was the Secretary of State of Arizona. And there's been a lot of stuff in Maricopa County going on for years that's been coming out. They did it in 2,000 Mules. They covered a lot of this stuff. We're not going to get too in-depth about it. But here's a good example for you. This is how this works with people. Katie Hobbs was the Secretary of State, and she was running against Kerry Clark. Now, the Secretary of State, let me pull this up for you real quick here and make sure I got my proverbial sticks about me. In 38 states, the Secretary of State is the chief election official, a role required by federal law, often in charge of running and certifying elections of their local, state, and national leaders. Okay? They are the chief election official. She refused to recuse herself, and we had all these allegations of fraud coming in, okay, with Kerry Clark. And she refuses to recuse herself. She refuses to debate. Why would she refuse to debate? She doesn't have to debate, does she, Deez?
No.
She knows she's going to win that election. They did the same thing they did in the 2020 presidential election, which was They actually closed down the ballot places. They were doing ballot harvesting. The stuff that comes out, this junk that comes out in Michigan, the same thing that happened in Michigan was happening in Arizona.
And probably multiple other places. This is what we're up against. Just flat out cheating. That was the point I wanted to make about it. I didn't have enough time to get into it. This thing with Kerry Clark is an ongoing issue. She's a patriot. She was screwed out of the governorship of Arizona. Yeah.
There's no way. Katie Hobbs was... If Katie Hobbs and a beetle, and I don't mean like I'm gonna hold your hand. I don't mean like that kind of beetle. I mean like a dung beetle. Got in an argument, the dung beetle would win. That's how stupid this broad is, okay? She's ignorant. Owl Crap's got one up on her. Might as well call her Hammer Hobbs because she's dumber than a sack of hammers. It's like Joe Biden. How the hell does this guy get elected president? Really think about this. Come on, man. So anyway, that's something that I wanted to get out of my system there a little bit here on the El Donzo and Deez show. Deez, did you have anything pulled up for us? You want to go first?
Yeah, well, first off, I just wanted to do the weekly plugs. Obviously, check us out on our socials. Twitter.com, we are at ElDonzoDeez. Also, Facebook.com/ElDonzoDeez. And most important of all, go to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/ElDonzoDeez, and you can actually watch the show as well as listen to it. And last week, a sad note, we had to mourn the passing of Pee Wee Herman. And this week, we lost another icon from our childhood and teen years and even adult years.
Yeah.
And that is Willie Perry. Now, who the hell is Willie Perry, you might ask? Well, if you are between the ages of, 10 and 60 and have been to a wedding in the last 20 years, you have heard Willie Perry.
This is something new, the Casper Slide Part 2, featuring the Platinum Band, and this time we're gonna get funky.
That's right, DJ Casper, the famous guy who came up with the cha-cha slide, passed away after a battle with cancer at age 58. So rest in peace, Willie Perry, a.k.a. DJ Casper. And now moving on, I got to ask you what your thoughts are on this Craig Robertson thing. It's still somewhat breaking, but he was a adamant Trump supporter. FBI raided his house at like 6:15 in the morning, and there was a kerfuffle, and ended up getting shot and killed.
So what I can see, somebody sent into, kind of funny we bring this up, the Gateway Pundit, alleged video of, I believe it was the FBI, raiding his house. They gathered around, they threw, I think it was a flashbang or something to that extent. He was out on his front porch, from what they say, and they rushed him. He didn't shoot, but they shot him. So my thoughts on this, when Deez and I first talked about covering the story, were we don't know enough yet. And then Deez made a really good point that I should have thought of, and I didn't. Deez, why don't you tell the listeners out there what your point to this is? Because it's a damn good point that I didn't even pop in there with all the news going on.
Well, the reason that they raided his house so far, again, this is still, information's coming out, but the main reason is that he had been making threatening remarks to not only Joe Biden, but other Democrats about, assassinating them. I believe one of the biggest thing was Biden was supposed to go to Utah, which is where this man is from. And he posted on Facebook, like, gonna have to dig out the ghillie suit and the sniper rifle, whatever. And so basically they're calling that a threat on the president's life. Now, I'm not condoning that. If you do stuff like that, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. However, what about all the people that were posting death threats and death wishes?
Kathy Griffin.
Like Kathy Griffin with the bloody severed head when Donald Trump was in president. Why wasn't the FBI, blowing their door off and raiding their homes?
Because the FBI was crooked and they didn't have Trump in their pockets.
Yeah.
That's why, okay? So this is from New York Post. I got to give it to the New York. A lot of people rip on New York Post for being a rag, but it's not.
And if you haven't heard yet, this is a 75-year-old man, 300-plus pounds, who has to use a cane to get around. Not exactly the kind of person you would consider to be a threat.
Here's the thing. Look, this guy is just like a lot of other people in America. Maybe he acted a little unhinged, but I'm going to tell you, when you get to be 75 years old, you don't give a damn what anybody says to you, or you don't give a damn what you say to anybody else, okay?
Yeah.
This guy, just like a lot of us, feel that he has been ripped off and feel that he has been screwed unconstitutionally in his country. So, yeah, maybe he was a little PO'd about it. I can't blame him. Should he have put that stuff on Facebook? Obviously not. You don't put that, especially if you're conservative, you don't want to post that stuff on Facebook. But this is from the New York Post. Neighbors described the man shot, which was Craig Robertson, 75, in the FBI raid on his home in Utah after he made threats to assassinate the president, as a decent guy who cared for his blind son, but was the type to sleep with a gun under his pillow. He allegedly pointed a gun at law enforcement during the incident Wednesday, which led to what locals described as a hail of bullets at the home in Provo. Geez, you would have thought he was in Chicago and he was black at that point. Robertson was then dragged out of the house and bled out on the sidewalk outside his home, covered under a sheet, according to local reports. Travis Clark, who lived on the same street as Robertson, said, "I just can't believe that this man warranted that kind of response." I think Travis Clark may have been the one that shot the video.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, could you have went there and again, we don't know exactly what. Maybe he did point a gun. Hard to say. We'll never, if he didn't, we'll never know that because there probably weren't really any body cams on the FBI.
Look, if this guy's this mad about this, he's 75 years old, he's 300 pounds, he's not going to go traveling off somebody, okay? You know what would have been a really, really good way to wrap this up? This guy's taking pictures of himself on his ranch in Utah, right? He's not anywhere else, he's in Utah.
Yeah.
He's mad at the world, but he's not going anywhere. You know what? Maybe he didn't have to die if the FBI didn't decide they were going to play,
It's not a ranch. I mean, he lives on a cul-de-sac.
Yeah. If the FBI, cul-de-sac, whatever it was, I called it a ranch. If the FBI didn't decide that they wanted to play Captain Commando and go in there and just shoot somebody, maybe they just shouldn't have went there in the first place. Obviously, this guy didn't have any issues with his neighbors. Obviously, he was just mad.
Yeah.
Why did they have to go there and do this? You know what? If somebody pulls up to my house, armed guys at 6:15 in the morning, I'm not sure what my reaction is going to be to that, Deez.
No, yeah, that's the other thing. Like, what do you're banging
your
on
coffee.
the door, and it sounds like they busted the door open through a flashbang. I'm probably going to come out, locked and loaded as well.
Well, look at it this way. He's not going to get his day in court, is he?
Right.
Because as somebody like that, you don't get your day in court. Look what happened to the Jan Sixers. They got thrown in a D.C. gulag. All right? This guy, I don't want to assume I know him. I don't want to assume I know what he's thinking. But from his post and the way he thought, I can pretty much guarantee you he knew what was going to happen to him if the FBI actually got him in custody.
Yeah.
Okay, which means no more freedom. He'll die in jail. Why wouldn't you just go ahead and do it? Why wouldn't you just push the limits a little bit?
And the way that with technology and everything, this is something that, look, they could have monitored him.
Yep.
And,
They could have.
1 or 2 agents there, arrest him, whatever, charge him with making threats, blah, blah, blah. But to send a fully armed, basically an FBI SWAT team,
yep,
for lack of a better description, to this 75-year-old, overweight, walking with a cane, like, come on, what the hell are we doing? That's where your taxpayer money is going to bust, this old grumpy old man, basically.
I'm going to tell you, they wanted to shoot him.
Sure, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that. It seems they went ready, for a firefight that they obviously initiated when it could have been handled in a 1,000% different way.
And I'll have to check on this. I'm not sure. I think the FBI needs to call the local police department. I think they need to clear that with them. I could be wrong on that. We're going to find out after the break. I'll do my due diligence and my research like I 99% of the time always do. But why couldn't they just orchestrate this a little bit better? Because they didn't want to orchestrate it better.
Yeah.
They wanted to shoot the guy. Just like that Bird, the Capitol police officer, wanted to shoot Ashley Babbitt, and he got away with it scot-free.
Speaking of birds, got a crazy story about that coming up, too.
We'll be right back on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.